presentation is on how to conduct effective meeting and how to write CWA minutes and reports. The main objectives of these presentations are: 1. The participants will define meetings, state the importance of meeting in CWA, and develop skills of conducting effective meetings. 2. Apply the tips necessary for good minutes and reports writing. This presentation will be done by Catherine Ayuk of the Archdiocese of Douala, who is the second Vice General President.
Meetings, meetings, meetings. The heart of CWA, meetings. No meetings, no CWA. Therefore, meetings are to the CWA as the human heart is to the human body. Can anyone live without a heart? The answer, of course, is no. So if there are no meetings, there will be no CWA. What are meetings? Meetings are a grouping of women come together, the CWA women precisely, coming together for discussions on matters related to CWA for its growth and its expansion. How many types of meetings do we have? We have meetings, 6 types of meetings at the various 6 levels: the branch, the zone, the division, the province, the diocese, the province, and the national. But for the purpose of this training seminar that we are holding with our sisters of the US and UK, we shall limit ourselves to 2 levels, the branches and the zone, because we haven't reached divisions at the other sides of the world. What are the importance, the purpose of these meetings? We just said a minute ago that meetings are to the CWA as the heart is to the body, which implies the importance of this meeting. So if it is that important, what makes it important? What makes our meetings important? Our meetings are very important to the CWA because, 1, they bring life to CWA. They bring life to CWA and they make it, and if there is life in CWA, there is hope. And if there is hope, there is surely hope for expansion and effectivity and effectiveness. There is also this aspect of binding members together. We share in warmth. When we come together, we feel the warmth of one another and we go home happier. We come together and we take decisions. Why do we come together? We take decisions. We take resolutions. We take for ourselves, for the CWA and for the church, and as well as for our society. Because the CWA woman, the products of the meetings will affect the CWA woman. The products of the meetings will affect the church, will affect the association, and will affect the society in which you live. Also, it keeps members informed. If members do not attend meetings, they cannot be informed. So we must attend meetings, so that we must be informed. And again, and most importantly, it fosters our spiritual growth. Why do we say it fosters our spiritual growth? Because there in the meetings, we do aspects related to spiritual upliftment. We shall come to that. Our focus is, how do we conduct effective meeting? What must we do in order that our meetings will be effective and bear the fruits which are so much intended or desired? Just one thing is needed. Dear sisters, dear leaders, dear executive members, one thing. That one thing is planning. Planning in the morning, planning in the afternoon, planning in the evening, planning at night, planning all round. For our meetings to be effective, we plan at all levels. So we have 3 stages of planning for an effective meeting. We have the pre-planning, we have the planning during meetings, and we have planning after meetings. What do we mean by planning before meetings? Planning before meetings is like a preparatory process, stage. What do we do? At this stage, the president and her ESCO will come together. Sisters of Maryland, Boston, Virginia, and the rest in America, and those in London, Birmingham, and the rest in the UK, in Europe, Germany, Scotland. What do we need to do? No president will get up in the morning and say, I'm just called for a meeting at zonal level or a weekly meeting at branch level without planning. So what must we do? The president and her executive will meet and plan. And you are planning, you ask the first question, what am I to do? What I have to do will give me what? For us, I and my executive to state the objectives of that meeting. The objectives must be stated. Because if the objectives are not stated, then that meeting is null and void. It's a no-reason meeting. Again, what will be the duration? If it's a branch meetings according to our statutes and bylaws and according to the general working plan, is 2 hours. It cannot be less than 2 hours. It might, for sometimes, go slightly above 2 hours, but the duration permitted by our statutes is 2 hours. And this meeting, during this planning process, we look at it. Who are those who attend this meeting? That is, we select our participants. Which type of meeting? And the selection of the participants will depend on the type of meeting. Is it an executive meeting or is it a general meeting? And if it is an executive or general meeting, for you to know very well, most often, please do not depend on your brain, because sometimes our brains will fail us. Go to the status where you are confused, for example, in a zonal meeting, and see from there who to attend which meeting and at what level. Then again, choose the venue. After selecting and identifying your participants, those who attend the meeting, where will the meeting hold? And the venue of the meeting, you decide in your executive. It mustn't be where, and it shouldn't be where members will go. They cannot have toilet facilities or restrooms. I know these things are there. But at the same time, we look at other, is the environment friendly? Is the environment accommodative? Is the environment good for members, etc.? Then develop, in that planning meeting, develop an agenda. What is an agenda? An agenda. An agenda is a program that the things that will be done during that meeting. And so therefore, for us to develop a good agenda, fortunately at branch level, it has been worked out for us by these ladies of the general executive. When you go to your page, for the purpose of time, go to your general work plan, the general work plan, page 9. You'll find it. You'll find it. If you care, I can just quickly run opening prayers, doctrinal formation, national doctrinal formation, CWA anthem, minutes of previous meetings, matters arising from the minutes, new business, any other business, finances, announcements, etc. Write a precise, concise, and accurate agenda. That will be, then you go again, during that you look for what will be the ground rules. Most meetings without ground rules don't succeed, because ground rules help to make our meetings very orderly and disciplined. That is why sometimes our meetings are indisciplined with indisciplined behaviors because of lack of ground rules. That is before the meeting. Do we plan also during the meetings? We have planned, we have a good plan. Do we stay there? No. We go into the implementation of the agenda we have worked, into the preparatory activities we have done before the meeting. So, what will guide us to have an effective meeting during the meeting? We start on time. We have a duration. Let's take 2 hours for a branch meeting, or zonal meeting 4 hours, or as determined by the executive. Now, When do we start? If we say a meeting is starting with mass at 7 o'clock, that meeting is beginning with a mass. And so everybody in that branch or every member in that zone is obliged, it's obligatory for us to attend the mass and begin with the mass. Then when we leave the mass and go to the meeting hall proper by procession, if we are in zones according to branches, what do? The president, first of all, welcomes her members. It is not given. You've called for a meeting. So when those members come, you should appreciate, welcome them, and thank them. Then you review the agenda of the day. When you plan the agenda with your executive, the other members were not there. So you read the agenda, not you, the president, reading the agenda. At the branch level, they don't have a publicity secretary. The branch secretary reads the agenda. At the zonal level, there is a publicity secretary. So the publicity secretary presents the agenda. Next, we respect the time. In your agenda, you have already structured the time. How many minutes, how many seconds per item of the agenda. You try as much as possible to respect that. Also, during the meetings, the presidents, please foster listening. The president, you listen to yourself, listen to your members, and then encourage members to listen to each other. And make sure that as the participants listen, encourage them and establish to respect the established rules, the established ground rules. What are they? For example, we said in our executive meeting that during the planning meeting that there will be use of no gadgets, phones, no noise making, no side meetings, no snapping with your phones during meetings, no, all those things of no monopolizing of parole, of talk by any given individual. When you have encouraged, you say no hostages. Nobody will take hostage of the meeting. We apply all of this. And then, when we say no hostages, I want to explain this a bit, dear sisters. Hostages taken are the most effective means of derailing our meetings. What do we mean by taking hostage? One person stands up. You have 2 minutes or 1 minute or 5 minutes as appropriated are given. You talk for 20 minutes and the president just sits there looking at you. Then the women are already bored. So what do? If we have such members or such a member during a meeting, please politely call such a person to order. Because if not, your meeting, you will not complete your agenda, you will not exhaust your agenda, and your objectives will not be reached. Time for comments. Create time for comments during the meeting. And these comments, what do we do for these comments? Comments should be constructive. The comments should be based on the content, on the issues discussed. The comments should not be on personalities or on individuals. The comments should be strictly on fostering and encouraging and improving what has been discussed. Then we go during the meetings, closing ceremony. At the closing ceremony, what are the various aspects, the various sub-stages of closing ceremony? In our closing ceremony, we begin by the president or her secretary or anybody appointed by the president. But most often, it should be the president or her secretary. We highlight all the important points that have been discussed during the meeting. If we fail to do that, many of us, many participants, or many members will leave the meeting hall, without going home with much, or without going home with anything. And when we are given highlighting the issues that have been discussed, we should not forget to remind participants of the day, the time, and place or venue of the next meeting. So, and we should remember also to give them assignments. Take at branch level. At branch level, we have the national or general work plan. We must ensure that it is strictly followed. It should be strictly followed as already demarcated in the work plan. We have been structured month by month, week by week. So you give assignments so that the same people do not keep on doing the work. Get everybody involved. CWA meetings are participatory. So they should be participatory, get everybody involved. Also, in that follow-up, during that meetings as well, we give assignments, we give reminders, we should also give them assignments. And when we give these assignments, we must follow up. We must ensure that these assignments are done. We must ensure that if the assignments are done, it will facilitate the implementation of what will be done the next meeting. And what else must we do? We cannot go home without praying. We have a closing prayer followed by a song. And that song will be any member appointed or any member who is spirit-filled to lead us to closing prayer. Then this takes us to the third stage of our planning after meeting. The meeting has ended. Why should we evaluate? Or why should we plan again? Do we plan after the meeting? Yes, dear mothers, we plan after the meeting. And that planning after the meeting is what we call in our CWA jargons evaluation. Is it necessary to do evaluation? Very important. Evaluations at all meetings are very important. Why? For follow-up, to consolidate what has been done. It's like fixation of notions, fixation of all the contents that has been taught, that have been discussed, all the decisions that have been taken, all the assignments. When we fix the notion, women will go home feel happy that they have come to the meeting and gained something. And it will help us when we have verified if they have understood, we have validated the content of the day, we have consolidated the content of the day. Now it gives us the go ahead for the way forward. We are sure that the way forward is clean and clear. Now, what do we mean by follow up? In CWA, the General Executive is calling on all of us that follow up will go back. When we do a follow-up, we are able to identify the strengths and weaknesses during that meeting. And when we identify our weaknesses, the strengths fortify us, the weaknesses should not weaken us. The weaknesses will give us again the raison d'etre of going again to planning. That is why planning, implementation, and evaluation is a cycle. And in that cycle, we begin with planning. When we plan, we implement, which is still planning, stage 2. And when we plan, we go to stage 3, which is evaluation. And from there, we see the lapses, and we know that something must be done. We go back to planning. We replan again so that the next meeting will be better. Now, after this, what do? We call on all the presidents, this general body that people are watching. They are so conscious about the meetings because the effectivity of meetings will affect the effectiveness of our association. So the presidents, you take to yourself, you send a memo highlighting, again, you don't end there. You send a memo, telephones have come to help us. So you send a memo to all the branches are like 15, 20. If you cannot send to everybody, at least you share with your secretary and your vice president, you will send the highlights. Because I tell you, we all attend a meeting, for example, a zonal meeting. We all have the same facilities. We all have the same amenities. We all have the same advantages, but we go home with different notions. Sometimes we leave the main points of discussion and we admire something else and we go home with different or diverse decisions. Or sometimes we don't. How was the meeting? It was there. It was nice. What did they say? My dear, it was just nice. No. So when we send out a memo to remind them, they will remember. Then in that memo, highlights of the important things, decisions taken, assignments to remind our members. And when we give these assignments, it is on a side task. There is a task. Let them have tasks. Make the women work. When the women work, then evaluation will be easier and growth will be better. And before I run up with this talk, in evaluation, there is what we call checklist. How do you evaluate branch meeting, zonal meeting, and in other higher levels that we have committees to do that. Since we are here at the level of branch and zone, we have what were the objectives. Then we ask ourselves, we have a checklist, objectives. Were the objectives attained? Were they achieved? Yes, they were achieved. To what degree were they achieved? 50%, 80%, 90%, anything 50 below is poor achievement. They were not achieved. Why? We look for the reasons why these objectives were not achieved. Perhaps the language wasn't appropriate. Perhaps the methodology of teaching the lessons of the day wasn't appropriate. Perhaps the manner of evaluating the activities wasn't appropriate vis-a-vis their content. Then again, how were your participants? First, you ask another question. Is the meeting progressive? Are we progressing or are we regressing? If we are progressing, very good for us. If we are not progressing, why? We look for the reasons. We are going back to planning, first stage of planning. Then again, was the attendance good? Our attendance is improving. Do women have the urge of always being there? And we are telling you that the women will always find the urge to be there because we have made the meeting interesting, effective, participatory, and good. They go home with something. If we are having in the meeting, are we going to have a guest speaker? Are we going to have a guest speaker on cookery, on handwork, or anything? Let the matters, let it be known, and let the people go home satisfied. Now, if we have all this, if we implement, after evaluation, there's no full stop. We begin again and go to planning, implementation, and evaluation. When we see the participation high, the objectives well attained, the attendance good, the implementation of what we have done, because what we do in meetings must positively affect the members and their group. When we say all this great, then we say we are having effective meetings. And what will be the effects of these effective meetings? Meetings will grow, membership will grow, effectiveness will be very welcomed, will be well achieved, members will be happy, and members will go home and they positively influence themselves, their families, and the society around them. And when the society is positively influenced, I tell you, our meetings will grow, not only quantitatively, but also qualitatively. My dear sisters, woe to any leader who does not develop, try to apply these skills in order to make our meetings effective. When meetings are not planned, failure to plan our meetings is tantamount to planning to fail. If you refuse to plan, to have effective meetings, it means you have planned to fail. Are we planning to fail or we are planning to succeed? We should all plan to succeed. Therefore, plan your meetings in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, in the night, for effectivity, for positive growth, for positive fruits, for productivity, and so that our members, our meetings will not be epileptic, or will not have K-legs, or will not be one-legged, or will not be totally, if meetings are not well done, we want to cause stagnation. And like the Bishop of Kongsaba, I always quote him wherever I go, that woe to that woman who will be the reason why CWA is not fostering ahead. Thank you very much. Once more, it is Catherine Ayuk that has been speaking on behalf of the General Body from the Archdiocese of Douala. Thank you very much.
Plan in the morning, plan in the afternoon, and in the evening. Plan always. Because fail to plan is plan to fail. Failure is not our portion. In Jesus' name.
Amen.